What's up, YouTube? My experience with dry fasting is an amazing one. Every time I've ever got into that, practiced that, I learned something about myself and my powers, my body, every time. And each time I do it, it seems like the limit gets further and further. Well, there's no real limit. You can't go beyond what there's no limit to. All I'm saying is that the last time I tried it, it was right after I got back from the Middle East, in like June. My car was in Alabama, so I had to go get my car. I had to fly from Jersey to Houston to Alabama to get my car. So I was in transition. Of course, you're doing something like dry fasting or fasting in general, you're probably going to find yourself in a lot of transitioning in life, whether you're in the car all the time, traveling, on planes and trains, different things like that. You're definitely going to be in a transitional state, because that's what it is. It's a huge transition. So I was flying from Jersey or from Philly to Houston, and then from Houston to was it Atlanta or Montgomery? I forgot, because I did the flight a couple times. But I think, I flew into Birmingham. So I was in like a crazy transitional mode at the time, and my body was trying to shift. And if you're not practicing other forms of generating energy, you're gonna flounder. You're definitely gonna flounder if you're not doing breathing practices, solar gazing, listening to proper music, yoga, tai chi, qigong, any form of meditation. If you're not doing not practicing these other ways of generating energy and absorbing moisture and elements from the atmosphere, then you're definitely going to flounder. It's definitely going to be a more difficult time. It'll be just easy. It'll just be harder for you to be at peace during the entire process. So what I had noticed from the dry fasting is that you basically don't need to sleep. It's basically just periods of meditation between periods of somethingness or life, what you want to call this. This is somethingness. So you slip into nothingness or no thingness for however long you do, and then you come back, and it's like shorter than a night's rest. So I really didn't have any energy problem. I had a massive amount of energy and a massive amount of clarity. My clarity was ridiculous. And I had already, at that point, did just fluids and liquids up until that point. So when I had switched to just dry fasting, my body was already in a point where it wasn't dehydrated to where it would be a miserable dry fast. So I was getting my car, and I got into a point where I could either, it was in my whole life, it was definitely like I could apply my will here and get my car back, and I think they just bullshitted me and said that I would have to wait like 5 days or 6 days for a part to come in from Germany to fix my car. So I could have either waited, and at the same time too, like I said, my energy was so high, I was getting so much money just just from various sources at this time, getting a good amount of money. So I had the money to stay in Alabama for five nights or whatever it was, to wait and get my car fixed. But then I was just being impatient. I was being the body. So I chose to basically be impatient. So I ended up going from from Alabama back to Jersey. So when I was in the airport, everything was fine and dandy at that point. I was transitioning, got driven to the airport by a good friend of mine. Um, it was just, I gave in. You know, I was in the airport, everything was fine. And then I gave in just out of entertainment, being stuck in the airport, when I should have just stuck it out. And it was a beautiful day too. I was sitting in the airport like, man, it'd be way better to be outside. But regardless, all I'm saying is that I gave in to drinking, which led me to giving into fruits. And it was crazy. And in that instant moment that I gave in to just drinking fluid, water, all the flights got grounded. Every single flight got grounded because of some storm in Chicago. So my plane couldn't come from Chicago, or my layover was in Chicago, something like that. I fly so much that it was so many flights to go. So a storm was coming in Chicago, and it was the problem with my flight coming to get me to fly to the layover, or we couldn't fly to Chicago, something like that, of that nature. But that just, it let me know that my power, because we are the weather, we are the elements, my power was so deep at that point, and it let me know. I know other people would say like, you're crazy, but you know when you know. You know when you know inside of you, and it's understanding, and no one can tell you anything. And when you go against that is when you're hurting yourself. So that was the thing, and I guess I kind of cowered to my own power for a little while there. And now, as the new moon comes in, I'm probably going to get into a dry fast, just for a few days. I say that, but once I get into it, it might turn into longer than that. It's an amazing feeling. The body has to be properly calibrated and cleansed for it. It'd be great. Like I've been doing my Sebi cleanse, and that's why you see these videos just coming out of me. Everything's just coming out of me because life is flowing through me. So much oxygen to my cells right now through the Sebi cleanse. Thank you, Sebi. You the man. Thank myself. Yourself is myself. So, it's just been a great process. So I feel like I'm gonna definitely get into a little bit of dry fasting here. And now at the time I still had different practices for shifting energies and living off of different energies, but now I definitely know what I'm doing. The experience taught me so much to let me know my power. So other people might feel as though that you don't have that kind of power. We can't manipulate the weather, but everything you do manipulates the weather. Every breath you take, every time you step outside, you constantly send off electricity, and the universe replies. So it's just that simple. We are the weather. So I knew, because it was instantaneous, I'm telling you, as soon as I drank and broke the fast, they got the call in like, your flights are grounded, you're going to have to stay here overnight. So I stopped the transition the middle of the transition. I stopped it so I could no longer move forward. I could no longer fly from there and get back through my transition because I let my will, I wasn't applying the will. Could have stayed in Alabama, applied my will, just toughed it out for like 5 days, got my car and drove back, and it would have been a whole transitional period. I could have just stayed in the hotel, practiced my yoga, meditation, solar gaze. It was Alabama, it was the summer, so I could have got plenty of prana. So P-Ra, So there was plenty of ways to generate life force energy to live off of, and I was just being impatient. I was being the false self. I was trying to get back. I was saying like, oh, I got to get back to this money. I got to get back to what I was doing. This is a blockage right now. You know what I mean? And I just gave in. I just gave in to something that was really something I didn't need. I had totally got to a point where I didn't need sleep. I had no appetite. I had no thirst. All I wanted to do was just be. And everything was great. Honestly, like, my mood was just superb. So anybody that's thinking about dry fasting, get the body ready for it, of course. Do as much searching about it and prepare yourself totally for it so you don't flounder. And do it in small increments until you think and know for yourself that you're ready. As far as a disclaimer, I'm not telling anyone to do it. I'm not telling anyone to dry fast. I'm just telling you my experience.